let's just spend a little bit of time talking about Jose Martinez. Reports out of Tampa are that he has worked so hard and consistently hard on his defense. Now, I know in fantasy we're not concerned about defense, but in the case of Martinez, I am, because this is a dynasty league, and I want him to qualify next year as an outfielder. I think he's going to have one of these breakout final kind of years that you've been waiting for. He's going to get the opportunity in Tampa, and I think when he does, you're going to see some incredible numbers this year out of Martinez playing in Tampa. Now, I've also got this next guy. He's going to hit for average. He's not going to get you a lot of home runs, but Luis Arias for Minnesota, who last year hit .334, not as a full-time player at the start of the year. Remember, they had signed Jonathan Scope. This year, he is a full-time player, and he's not only outfield eligible, but he can also play second and third in this particular league. So I'm looking for Luis Arias to give me some average, maybe a few stolen bases. That's a category. He's kind of limited otherwise, but he's an on-base hound. I've also got Hunter Dozier, I already mentioned, and it's a 4-outfield league, guys. On my bench, I've already spoken about Camargo. I've also got Michael Conforto. And right now, if anybody is benefited by a delay of a season, it's got to be Conforto. Now, we know he had the oblique injury early in the spring. There were questions about whether he would be ready by opening day. Brodie Van Wegman said that he thought he would be ready. He said, quote, "We'll see how he responds in the coming days, and then as we evaluate his game readiness next week." Now, this was last Wednesday, just before the spring training was ended and the season was put on hiatus. So if that was the report, and it was, last Wednesday, I'm very encouraged by some delay to the season with Conforto, who hit 33 homers and drove in 92 last year, and he's going to be firmly supplanted in the middle of that New York Metropolitan lineup. Also on my bench, here's a player that could be a sleeper. Avisail Garcia, who now is a Milwaukee Brewer, and he will play right field, it's anticipated, for Milwaukee with some regularity. He hit 20 home runs in a part-time role last year. Certainly he may not be in the lineup every day. I've got him as a backup. But I think when you look at Trout, Conforto, Dozier, Martinez, J.D. Davis, Garcia as a whole, and Camargo can also play outfield, I think the outfield is pretty well covered. So I feel pretty good about my regular batters. Now let's take a look at the pitchers on this team. I've got Kyle Hendricks for Chicago, Frankie Montas for Oakland, Steven Strasburg for Washington. Those were all inherited. I've got Adrian Hauser for Milwaukee, Mike Foltynewicz for Atlanta, Rick Porcello for New York, Brandon McKay, Kevin Gossman, and I drafted Cole Hamels knowing he's injured to start the year. Those are pretty solid pitchers. I also went out and took some chances on some players late. One of those that I took a chance on late is Ryan Helsley for St. Louis. So Helsley last year came up as a reliever. Now this year, he may be a starter. He could be the closer. But last year in limited edition role, he had a .295 ERA in 24 appearances. He's 25 years old, throws a fastball in the upper 90s. And I think he could really be an impact arm for the Cardinals this year. Another player I took a flyer on, because you have to do that when you're drafting 34 players, right? In a 12-team league. Tyler Rogers for San Francisco. In late February, manager Gabe Kapler said, "We're excited about Rogers." Rogers made his debut last year, of course. Now, what do we expect out of Tyler Rogers? He could be their closer. Last year in 2019, he had a 1.02 ERA, a 0.85 whip, struck out 16 over 17 innings, and had 5 holds. He's 20 years old. We expect to see him in high leverage roles, whether he's a closer or not, for San Francisco. And now with the new rules, where you have to face 3 batters, he could really be a really big piece. So those are my draft picks yesterday when I was drafting yesterday afternoon. The way this league is structured, guys, is that at the All-Star break, which is kind of cool, right? We have another draft where you draft minor leaguers. I think that is just an awesome rule. I don't know how many of you play in leagues where that goes on, but I'm doing it for the first time. What it'll do is it'll make you not only tune in to major league games once they start, but also tune into minor league games going on around the whole country. So talk about being a baseball junkie, and talk about the conversations that we can have on this network. We can talk about major leaguers. We can talk about minor leaguers. It'll be just a great time of year to be on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Network, listening to the podcast, not just my show, but others as well. And Lenny posted the schedule yesterday, I believe, of upcoming podcasts now that we're into this baseball hiatus. And so here is our network modified schedule at this point. So Monday through Friday, Lenny leads off at 9 o'clock. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I follow Lenny. On Wednesdays, we have happy hour with King Hap Mike Harrington at 7, and the Roto Lady at 8, Andrea Lamont. On Thursdays, after my show at 9:45, Kevin Hastings is on at 6 p.m. Following me on Tuesday nights, Phil Chaplin at 7. And on Sundays, it's a buffet. It's Kevin Hastings at 1, George at 6:30, and Doug Boyle at 8 p.m. So that's our modified schedule. You can download, you can listen live, you can do a lot with this. But tune into these podcasts, guys, because the information that we have on this network, it's solid stuff. It really is. So I think what I'm going to do is tomorrow talk about the draft that I had last night. And it was a complete 30-round draft. Wow. We started at 8:30 and we finished around 11:30 last night Eastern time. So let's just save that for tomorrow. I don't want to bomb you with too many drafts. Let's give you an update. Of course, I read yesterday that there's a possibility now that the Major League season may be delayed until Memorial Day due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, that's according to 2 Major League Baseball executives. Players, coaching staffs have started to head home. You know, a lot of teams have stayed at the spring training facility, but now it looks like a lot of those are going to head home and just sort of wait it out. And it's very unlikely that a full 162-game schedule will be played this year. And now, once players are allowed to reconvene and a opening day start is announced, you got to have them probably have another 2 weeks or so of spring training, which will push the start of the regular season back even further. So, will it negatively affect a fantasy value? I don't think so. Obviously, you won't have as many games, so statistics at the end of the year will not be what they are now. But it should benefit players like Aaron Judge, for example. Take Aaron Judge, who is suffering with this injury, rib injury. Now Aaron Judge has time to heal without any rush at all. And there are other players we could name, even a Cole Hamels for Atlanta, who had some kind of shoulder issue. So players not ready for opening day now have possibly up to 2 months to recover from their injuries. And I think that is just huge for fantasy because it opens the door for so many other players that otherwise may not be getting the opportunity. A few more notes. Angels starting pitcher designated hitter Shohei Ohtani. Now, I really like Ohtani this year. He will not be shut down from throwing while baseball is suspended, according to General Manager Billy Epler. And the same goes for all Angel pitchers. The Japanese pitcher did not pitch at all last season, recovering from Tommy John. Wasn't scheduled to begin pitching until sometime in May. But with opening day now pushed back, this is another player who's going to benefit from the delay. Because now when the season opens, Ohtani will probably be in pitching form to start the year as well as DHing form. He hit a ton last year, 286. And this is with an injured elbow. He hit 286 with 18 homers and 62 RBIs and 12 stolen bases. I can only imagine what he might do with a non-injured elbow to start the 2020 season and to be pitching with regularity right off the get-go when the season does start up. And we know now yesterday a Yankee minor leaguer who was unnamed working out at Himes Field, not at George M. Steinbrenner Field. Himes Field is the minor league complex across the street. If you've never been there, it's an incredible little facility. They have 4 fields. I've played on those fields. Great place to go. But a Yankee player diagnosed with coronavirus yesterday, it was reported. So now we have our first, if you will, outbreak. And so the Yankees are being extremely precautious, following all protocol. We hope whoever this player is, that he recovers quickly. And we hope that this virus has not spread to other players on the team. I'm sure if it has, we'll hear about it. But I want to give you that update as well if you didn't hear. And so hopefully by staying home, being smart, secluding this virus, and I know here on the East Coast where I live in North Carolina, we're expecting temperatures up in the 80s later this week. And just so you know, viruses don't like the heat, okay? It's like, Frosty doesn't like the heat. Well, neither does a virus. And so I'm looking for the virus and the heat to sort of die down, and let's get back to playing ball sooner than later. In the meantime, we're going to be having podcasts and talking about this great sport that we all love and adore. I'm going to get out of here, guys. It's been a great morning. Thank you for being with me. Be careful. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow right here on LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. Talk to you tomorrow, guys. Have a good one.